The Angels had a lot of issues on the field in 2025, both offensively and in the pitching department. So GM Jon is here to fix it for 2026.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The issues that plague the Halos offense and the pitching staff are very clear, and we've got a rundown of where they stand after 2025. Jon's got an ace in mind, plus some trades that might just solve the Angels' average on base percentage, strikeout, and third base issues. But can he pull it off all within Arte's playground? We're going to find out. But before we do, we want to thank FanDuel, our sponsor of the show. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today.
I want to thank everybody for coming to this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon Frisch, and that's my brother, Mike Frisch.
Are we NPR now? What's going on? Hey, my name's Mike, and that's my brother, Jon.
I'm inviting everybody to the press conference, Mike. GM today. Come on. Let me live my life for crying out loud.
Let me live. Let me just be.
Hey, we just wrapped up our 4th season as the host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you every Monday through Friday, including in the offseason. There's a lot to talk about, so make sure you're tuned in and turned onto Locked On Angels so that you can keep up with all the Angels news and nonsense that comes along.
I had a friend yesterday that works for me that at lunch said, "You still doing that podcast?" And I said, "Yeah, 5 days a week." "What? 5 days a week? What's there to talk about?" And I said, "It's the Angels. There's always something to talk about."
It never ends with the Angels. Mike, it's one of our favorite times of the year where we get to play GM. You got to play GM yesterday, and today I sit in the GM chair, don't I?
Yeah, a couple of rules that we are following for our GM episodes. Since I made my picks yesterday, Jon cannot pick the same people. So when you hear his selections for free agents and trades and things like that, you might say, well, why not this guy? Why'd you go with that guy? Well, because I picked some of the guys that he wanted yesterday, like Michael King. He wanted that guy. So I got a trade for Alec Boehm. I got Michael King, Tyler Mahle, Kenley Jansen, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and Trent Grisham. They're all out. By the way, I think people were not thrilled with my Trent Grisham pick, but that's okay.
They need to look at the on base and things like that, and the plate discipline if they're going to compare him to Taylor Ward. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Now we're trying to be realistic. We're not trying to be wild and crazy. We're going to take into consideration Arte's snow globe and what the Angels are, quote unquote, allowed to do. 1-year deal for Kurt Suzuki. There's this impending lockout. Probably means no long-term deals. And of course, we're going to try to be as reasonable with the payroll as possible. It would be easy just to dream and go nuts and pretend that this is magic, right? But we're trying to be as reasonable as possible, what the Angels could possibly do and how they would typically go about this. And then finally, just to note, the first luxury tax threshold for 2026 is $244 million. That's the combined average annual value of all of the contracts. The estimated luxury tax with arbitration predictions right now for the Angels sits at $193 million. That's about $51 million to play with. Jon, I would love to have $51 million just to play with. It'd be so much fun. So, Johnny, why don't you get us started with some thoughts on your philosophy and why you decided to make the decisions you've made as GM.
Yeah, let me recap where the Angels stand coming out of 2025. Their offensive numbers, 92 weighted runs created plus 8% below league average, 22nd in Major League Baseball, an 8.1% walk rate, 21st in baseball, 27.1% K rate, worst in baseball, 225 average, worst in baseball, 298 on base percentage, 28th in baseball, and a 397 slugging percentage, 17th in baseball. Let me turn it over to the pitching numbers. A 4.89 ERA for the entire staff, 4.91 ERA for the starting rotation, 4.86 ERA for the bullpen, 8.4 Ks per nine. That was 10th in baseball, so that's pretty good. But 4.08 walks per nine, 27th in baseball. Mike, the offense was below average overall, big swing and miss issues, poor on base skills. Slugging was middle of the pack, even though they hit a lot of home runs, it still wasn't consistent enough. with contact or on base percentage support on the pitching side. The entire staff was subpar, and largely due to the fact that they didn't have good command. Again, 27th in walks per nine, despite a pretty good strikeout rate. So that points to volatility. That's a lack of control, and especially in the rotation and the bullpen. So here's what I'm going to do to target and address those needs, Mike. I need hitters with good contact numbers, on base percentage. I need to cut down on the strikeouts. I need pitchers with good control, as in low walk rates, low walks per nine. That means they got to throw strikes, Mike. So I'm going to start with my first free agent addition. I know I said no long-term deals, but I don't think of this as a long-term deal because it's only 3 years. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get ourselves a certified ace for the Angels rotation. Now, he might not be the ace of every staff, but he'd certainly be an ace in this staff. That's left-hander Ranger Suarez. Almost
okay. All right.
Age 30, Mike. He's predicted to get 3 years, $75 million. That's a $25 million annual average value, and I actually like that. So I'm going to roll with that too. 3 years, $75 million. He became a full-time starter in 2022 with a 3.59 ERA over the last 4 years. The biggest thing for me, he's under the league average for walks per nine and walk percentage. In 2024, his walks per nine were 2.45, and the league was at 3.12. In 2025, his walks per nine was 2.14, and the league was at 3.21. He's a league average or better walk percentage. He has one, I should say, since he's become a starter. Just last year, a 5.8% walk rate. The league was at 8.4. Another point for him, Mike, his FIP, or fielding independent pitching. That is essentially what the pitcher can control from the mound if you were to remove balls in play, defense, that kind of thing. So think of it as an ERA that he can control. 3.21 in 2025, 3.37 in 2024. So what this tells me is that his ERA that he's had over the last 4 years is not an illusion. It's going to be right in line. So we can expect about a 3.3 to a 3.5 ERA from Ranger Suarez. He's easily the ace of the Angels staff. You can kind of get a good lefty-righty mix by going between him, Soriano, Kikuchi, maybe a fourth starter who I'll talk about later, and Reed Detmers. The only issue with Ranger is that he's never reached 162 innings in his career as a starter. That's actually kept him from winning ERA titles. He just hasn't gotten the 162. That has a lot to do with a history of some back issues. But if you want to turn this staff around, you can't do much better than Suarez, who I think would gladly accept $25 million a year, be a centerpiece for the Halos rotation. On the issue of innings, I'm going to address that fact in segment 2 with another starter I have in mind. But this leaves me with about $26 million to play with at the moment, Michael. Now tell me, this is my big swing. This is my big free agent signing. I really only have one big free agent signing. This is it. What do you think of Ranger Suarez and how he addresses the pitching needs of the staff?
Well, he brings experience. He brings playoff experience. He's been on a really good team. He's been around really good guys. He's been around, I think, a healthy clubhouse and a healthy organization. So he is going to be a healthy guy to insert into this Angel team, into this Angel organization. John, is there any concern if you are bringing him in? Is there any concern with having to do the lefty-righty thing? Like Kikuchi is the ace currently, but according to how you have the starters laid out, he wouldn't pitch until game 3, not opening day. He'd be the third starter in this rotation. Of course, you're going to try to fill that fourth spot with someone, probably a right-hander, I'm assuming. I haven't seen it, so I'm guessing. And then Reed Detmers, maybe number 5. But you've got 3 big lefties in this starting rotation, and you're going to move the guy that you gave a big contract to last year to number 3 in the rotation. Do you think that causes any issues? Do you think that creates any issues? Tell me your thoughts there.
I think that puts Yusei Kikuchi right where he belongs, Mike, as a number 3. I know that he was number 1 on our staff. I know he was the ace of the Angels staff. But the truth is, and history will show and the track record will show, he is a 3, maybe a 2 at best. When he's on, he's on. But he wasn't on all season long. And so I think that there's some safety in having him at number 3. Plus, it's just a number. And if you go Suarez, Soriano, Kikuchi, That's a pretty good 1-3 to start a series with. And you might even find that as the season goes on, and maybe you can make some adjustments, Detmers might find himself in the 2 or the 3 spot, depending on how things shake out. So I'm not afraid to move Kikuchi to number 3 because I think he actually is a number 3.
Yeah, like that a whole lot. I think he is what the Angels have been needing for a long, long time. And John, out of all the pitchers that are free agents currently, there's only a handful that could potentially be aces. There aren't the Garrett Coles out there right now. We saw that Shane Bieber opted back in with the Blue Jays.
I love that, actually. I mean, that goes a long way for the fact that what that team did and having Bieber come back, I think that's huge for them for sure.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. And then Ranger Suarez can do that for the Angels in 2026 on John's Angels team and maybe get us to the playoffs, right? We could all wish and hope. And that's why you're making these decisions, right?
Exactly. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, making some swaps, Michael. I'm going to trade a few guys and I'm going to sign a few more. We're going to get into those conversations in just a minute.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. It's the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right means that you can cash in. And football is in the middle of its season, and Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on all of the football action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. Download the Prize Pick app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Of course, you can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, find today's episode, get in the comments section once you're done with this show, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on my moves as general manager of the Angels. I know Perry's got 1 year left, and I'm breathing down his neck for 2027. That's what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, we'll play pretend, and we'll play GM on today's show. Again, I'm trying to keep it reasonable, trying to keep it within budget, trying to keep it within Artie's sandbox, his playground, his hell house, I guess you could say as well. But hit us up on social media as well. We're going to make sure that we post both Mike's GM moves and my GM moves, and you can respond to them there in addition to the comment section on YouTube.
John, you got us started with a big swing in free agency. You brought in Ranger Suarez, a 3-year deal, gave him some good money, $25 million a year, which is right about where people are projecting he would go. Now, your concern was that he hasn't hit 160 plus innings in his career. Mm-hmm. And you said in the first segment that you had some ways that you were going to go about addressing that. So tell us your ways, GM John.
All right. So I'm going to make a big trade here. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send Jorge Soler and single-A outfielder Hayden Alvarez plus $8 million to the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mike, for Mitch Keller. Now, I know everybody's saying, Jorge Soler, who the heck is going to want him? Well, here's how I'm going to answer that. First, let me talk about Mitch Keller. He's going to be 30 on April 4th of next year. He's a right-hander, and he's owed an average annual value of $15.4 million for 26, 27, and the 28 seasons. Let me tell you what the Angels are going to get with Mitch Keller. He's had 4 straight seasons of 29 starts or more. Last year, 176 and 2/3 innings pitched, a 4.19 ERA, 20% K rate, 6.8% walk rate, Mike, 2.6 walks per 9. So about 2.5 walks for every 9 innings that he pitches. Now, to offset any innings issues with Suarez, I think Mitch Keller would be a good addition to the rotation, and you put him together with Kikuchi, who also provides a lot of innings, not to mention that the Angels do have some starters they can turn to if necessary. But here's the key. Mitch Keller tied Yoshinobu Yamamoto this past year with 484 called strikes, 17th among all qualified pitchers. He has a 60% first pitch strike rate, meaning that when he starts an at-bat, 60% of the time he throws for a strike. That would be second only to Kikuchi in the Angels rotation as it stands. And that would be third if I was able to get Ranger Suarez. So a guy who throws strikes and gets that first pitch strike, which is key. Now, his fielding independent pitching is actually lower than his actual ERA. So that suggests that he could perform slightly better in terms of what he can control on the mound. Maybe there were some defensive lapses behind him. Maybe there were some plays that could have been made that didn't get made, things like that. Now, what do the Pirates get out of adding Jorge Soler plus an outfielder and $8 million?
Yeah.
Jorge Soler provides some much needed bang to this Pirates lineup. There were a lot of times where the Pirates starters pitched incredible outings. The problem is they didn't have the offense to support that. Now, I'm offsetting the $13 million that Jorge Soler is owed for 2026 by giving the Pirates $8 million. And what that does, it gives the Pirates an outfielder / DH type in the vein of Andrew McCutchen. Now, McCutchen was given $5 million for the last 3 seasons with the Pirates. So he made $15 million with them over 3 seasons. And he was kind of a big part of their offense, Mike. When the younger guys didn't come through for their starting pitchers, most nights when we were recapping game night and we're talking about the Pirates, it's McCutchen and Tommy Pham doing all the work. So the Pirates are going to need to add a McCutchen type, and I think Jorge Soler can be that. Now, the frugal Pirates, we've been talking about the frugal fiscal Angels. The Pirates are going to be off the hook for Keller's salary over the next 3 seasons. They have plenty of starting pitchers to turn to, lots of young, controllable starters, and they're out from any money that they owe to Soler after this season and Keller's salary as well. Now, Keller didn't end up being that ace-level arm that he was kind of projected to be a few years ago, but the Pirates, they can move on from him without worrying that they're missing out on anything with Mitch Keller. Plus, they have a ton of guys. Bubba Chandler, Carmen Muljenski. Obviously, they have Paul Skeens. They got a ton of guys that they don't have to worry about their starting rotation. They also get a young outfield prospect who is very much the type of player that the Pirates like. It's Hayden Alvarez, 6'3", 190 pounds. He's got a 50 hit tool, a 60 run tool. More on that in a second. A 55 fielding tool. And in 2 seasons in the minor leagues so far, he's had 30 plus stolen bases across those 2 seasons. So not across those 2 seasons, in each of those 2 seasons.
Wow.
30 plus stolen bases. And he's hit very well across rookie ball and single A. 302 average, 405 on base, 400 slugging, 805 OPS. So and to me, it's the kind of guy that they like. They like a speedy outfielder who can actually hit. Now, will that average taper off as he gets closer to the majors? Yeah, probably. But a 50 hit tool is a good place to start, and that 60 run tool is very, very good. So I think he fits the Pirates mold of the kind of players they like to add. So in doing all of this, Mike, the Angels' luxury tax and annual average value drops some from $16 million for Soler to $15.4 for Keller. And as it stands, I've added $24.6 million to the Angels' luxury tax salary. So currently, we're at $217.6 million, about $26.4 million under luxury tax. What are your thoughts on Mitch Keller, Michael?
Well, I always loved Mitch Keller, and so it'd be great to have him in Anaheim. And with what the Pirates have in their starting rotation, they are really set for the future and have some really strong arms there. They always struggled offensively, and they seem to be like the East Coast Angels in some way, where they're just trying to piece a team together to see what happens. They're very frugal, they're very fiscal, and so I think that this trade actually makes sense. But I did have a thought in my head. If you were the GM and you made this trade, here's the complaint. People would go, I can't believe that John traded Hayden Alvarez. But they didn't know who Hayden Alvarez was until you actually traded him, right? People didn't know who the guy was that we sent to Chicago until we actually sent the guy to Chicago, right?
Right.
And that's what's funny about being a fan of a team is I can't believe they gave away this guy. We have no idea what his name is. We have no idea what position he plays. We hadn't heard of him until they actually said something. So that would be the funny part of this trade. But overall, I think that you gave up good value to bring in good value, and the Angels get him for a few years. So he's in the rotation with Kikuchi and with Suarez, and Detmers, and Soriano for the next couple of years. So you have some a starting rotation that you can count on. And when was the last time that the Angels could look at their starting rotation and go, wow, these 5 guys are going to be our 5 guys this year and potentially next year and the year after?
Right. I think that that's a big part of why I wanted to do the things that I do. Knowing that the lockout is on its way, knowing that Kurt Suzuki is on a 1-year deal, I just think that if you're not going to buy anybody past this year, you can at least make trades for somebody past this year. All right, my second swap, Mike, I'm going to make Taylor Ward lover very upset. And I know that you traded him yesterday, but this would be my version of the trade. Taylor Ward and George Clausen to the Cardinals for infielder, outfielder Brendan Donovan. I turned to my good buddy, my co-host of MLB Game Night, JD Haffron of Locked On Cardinals. He and I became BFFs this year, hosting Game Night together. I asked him for some help. And I said, what do the Cardinals need and what would they accept for Brendan Donovan? He said they need starting pitching and a right-handed power-hitting outfielder. They need some thump. And he told me it would take more than just Taylor Ward to get it done. So let me talk about Brendan Donovan and what the Angels are going to get in Donovan. He'll be 29 to start this year, controllable for 26 and 27. He's projected to make about $5.4 million in arbitration for this upcoming year. Mike, he's a lefty. He can play second. He can play third. He's played left field. He can also, in a pinch, play some shortstop and first base as well. I am putting him at third base to answer the third base problem. Now, 4 seasons with the Cardinals, he was third in Rookie of the Year voting in 2022. Over those 4 seasons, he's hit 282, 361 on base, 422 slugging, a 775 OPS. Mike, a 117 OPS plus across those 4 years. That means he's 17% better than league average. He's not a big home run guy, but he has hit 10 to 14 over the last 4 years. In 2025, he hit 287, 353 on base, 422 slugging, 775 OPS, a 119 OPS plus. Here's what's key. 9% walk rate over his career, just a 13.5% strikeout rate over his career. He had 32 doubles last year, replacing Ward's 31 doubles, 13.4% whiff rate, good for the 11th best in all of baseball last year. 10% better contact rates than league average in all 4 seasons. He's played about half his games out of the leadoff spot, and he's also bat third half the time in 2025. He is the Cardinals' glue guy. He's someone who's really well liked in the clubhouse, and by adding him, I'm improving the batting average, the walk rate. I answer the third base problem. He's a true leadoff guy, not a ton of swing and miss. He counterbalances the power by getting on base. Mike, he's Nolan Schanuel, but 6 years from now. I think this is who Schanuel will end up being over the next few years. And here's what the Cardinals get out of this. They get their right-handed outfield bat with some thump in Ward, but they also get a future pitcher in George Clausen, who's controllable. He's the Angels' number 3 prospect per MLB Pipeline. And the Cards, who need starters and relievers, they can figure out what they want to do with Clausen. Start him, relief, whatever. The biggest thing, though, for the Cardinals is that they get somebody who helps them now in Ward. They add his $14 million salary that he's projected to get in arbitration on a team that didn't spend a lot last year. And when it didn't spend, it ticked off all the Cardinals fans. Attendance was the lowest it's been in a very, very long time. Here's why I'm okay with giving up Clausen. There's a ton of arms in the system that I think are going to project higher than him. They're a couple of years behind him. They're not close, but Mike, 10 of the top 30 prospects are position players per MLB pipeline for the Angels. So we need all the position players we can hold on to. Now, here's where we stand payroll-wise. I'm taking $14 million for Taylor Ward, swapping that from the luxury tax for a projected $5.4 million in Donovan. That puts us at about $209 for the luxury tax payroll. Remember, the Angels were at $223 last year. Mike, can I get this Donovan deal done with Ward and Clausen?
I think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if you would need to add maybe one more piece. But I think that you put a really high prospect, someone who is probably going to sniff the majors this year with the Angels and maybe would with the Cardinals. John, I love the Donovan trade. Here's why. Culture guy, and he's going to change the approach guy for the Angels, right? You got Shawnuel and Donovan at the corners, usually power spots. Now they're going to be contact first spots. And here's why that works. You have Joe Adell, you have Mike Trout, you have Christian Moore, you have Logan O'Hoppe, right? Almost kind of the same type of hitters. They're going to hit for power and strike out a lot. In between those guys, you've got Donovan and you've got Shawnuel. They're going to slap the ball around and they're going to get on base. Donovan being a leadoff guy, I think allows Zach Neto to move down to the third spot, right? And then you have maybe Shawnuel hitting second, depending on where you want to put him. I really like this move. Very jealous of your brilliance in the GMC.
Well, I appreciate that. Now I got to round out the rest of the roster. We're going to do that in just a minute.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at even a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late run. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets after your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So I've made some trades and I took a big swing in signing Ranger Suarez, Mike. This helps me get around some of the concerns about making one-year deals given the lockout, given Kurt Suzuki's one-year deal, how Arte likes to operate. The only exception to that is Suarez, and the 3 years is not a huge commitment, but I think it's important for this rotation. So rounding out the rest of the roster, I'm going to stick to some short-term deals here. I need some relief help, but I do like what we have rolling into 2026, especially with Mike Maddox. You've got Brock Burke. Hopefully Ben Joyce is back. Hopefully Robert Steven can stay healthy. Zephyr John, Silseth. And then you've got some guys with options like Fermin and Sam Bachman. So if you need to move some pieces around, you can. Mike, you took away my choice in bringing back Kenley Jansen on yesterday's show. So how about reuniting with another familiar face? How about Raisel Iglesias for 1 year, $10 million? Mike, he's going to be 36 years old, which makes a 1 year deal reasonable. But let me tell you about his year with the Braves last year. 4-6, 29 saves, 5 blown saves, 2 holds, 3 blown wins, meaning the Braves came back to win it after Raisel let it get away. Mike, this is key. A 6.4% walk rate last year. He's never hit double digits with his walk rate. It's a short-term deal, a risk worth taking to shore up the back of the bullpen. And it's a lot like Kenley, a veteran with a proven track record on a 1 year deal. So I'm sitting at about 219 for the luxury tax payroll, about 25 million before the first threshold. Mike, are you ready to hashtag resign Raisel again?
I think Andrew from Angels Top Plays is going to love this episode because he loved Raisel Iglesias.
I love it. I love it. So you're in.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Real quick, how about Andrew Chafin back for a 1 year deal, $4.5 million.
Okay. Reliable,
did great for us. We need another lefty in the pen, and he's a back of the bullpen guy. And I want that stash back. And so we got him 3 years after you and I really wanted him, but he did great for us. So get him back. I know he made the joke about not liking California, but maybe we convinced him to stay. We'll see what happens there. So Andrew Chafin, $4.5 million for 1 year. Mike, I need 2 more free agent signings. And here's what I'm going to do. Paul Goldschmidt, 1 year, $10 million. This guy's 37 years old, Mike.
Yeah.
But it's time we had a true backup to Nolan Shawnuel at first base. Here's why I'm going with Goldie. I want a real platoon situation for Shawnuel. When Shawnuel needs a day off, let him sit against the lefties. He doesn't have to sit all the time. In fact, Nolan hits lefties really well. But this was Goldie's year against lefties in 2025. 336 average, 411 on base, 570 slugging, and a 981 OPS. Now, he's not as good as he used to be at first base, so you can replace him defensively once he's got the game started and helps you get a lead. Finally, I'm going with Mike Yastrzemski, left-handed outfielder, 1 year, $5 million. Mike, he's getting 1 year and $5 million because he's 35 years old. I need a little bit of outfield help with Yastrzemski. It's another kind of platoon situation for me where he's only facing righties. And against righties last year, he had a 256 average, 362 on base, 446 slugging, and an 809 OPS. So again, Raisel Iglesias, Andrew Chafin, Mike Yastrzemski, and Paul Goldschmidt. So here's where my roster stands. I got my 8 relievers: Iglesias, Chafin, Burke, Joyce, Stevenson, Silseth, and then probably Ryan Zefferjon to start the year. So that means I'd leave a Fermin or a Bachman off the roster because they have options. My 5 starters are Ranger Suarez, Jose Soriano, Yusei Kikuchi, Reed Detmers, and Mitch Keller. Now, I should say Mitch Keller, then Reed Detmers to get that lefty-righty split in there.
Sure.
In the infield, O'Hoppe, Darno, Shawnuel, Goldschmidt, Christian Moore, Zach Neto, Brendan Donovan, and Oswald Peraza. In the outfield, Mike Trout, Adell in right field, Bryce Teodosio, Kyron Paris, I'm giving him a shot this year, and Mike Yastrzemski. And then when you need him to, Donovan can play the outfield when he's called upon. All told, I'm at $238.5 million for luxury tax payroll. That's $5.5 million under the first threshold. Short-term deals, made trades with some years beyond 2026. I addressed third base. I helped with reducing the strikeouts, increased getting on base, solidified the outfield, giving Kyron Paris a true chance to play. In that situation, I'm DH only for Trout. You don't need him to play the outfield with the guys that I've signed and brought in and traded for. A true backup for Shawnuel. That actually makes sense platoon-wise. I got a real ace of the staff in Suarez, and I got a reliable starter in Mitch Keller. Mike, give me your final thoughts on my 2025-26 GM episode.
Well, what the Angels needed was run production and run prevention. And you can't always guarantee run production,
Sure.
but you can almost guarantee run prevention. And what you did is you added pitchers that have a proven record to really shut down offenses. And so I loved it just from that perspective. But you also improved the defense, having Goldschmidt, having Yastrzemski, having Donovan out there, right? And then you're able to rotate them around. You're not putting Peraza at a position that he's never played before in his life. Mm-hmm. And then you allow Christian Moore to play second base and win that job and not be anywhere else. John, I really love what you've done here. And I love the thoughtfulness and the strategy. And I know that money can always be a flip of a coin. How much are we going to be able to get this guy for and all of those things? And I get that makes the job difficult for Perry Manassian. But when we do my show and then we do your show, I always come away going, it's not that hard, right? And,
yeah.
and it's I'm not in the mix.
And to stay under the luxury tax, right?
And that was even better, right? Like you're under the luxury tax, and so there is opportunity to be a good team and to fill this roster and not have to go out and spend. And so you prove that with this show. So great job, John.
Thank you. I want to make sure we get everybody's thoughts too. So again, hit us up in the YouTube comments for today's show, and I'll be posting Mike's GM episode graphics so that you can respond there, and I'll be posting graphics for my picks as well.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're here. It's the best way to stay updated on all things Angels throughout the offseason.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros. Again, come on over to YouTube, find today's show, hit that subscribe button while you're there as well. Get in the comments section. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
Well, we would love for you to be GM, and I'm talking to you, everydayers. We
I'll
would
do
love
it
for
again.
you.
Oh, just kidding.
We would love for you to be the GM. So everydayers, here's the deal. There's no limits for you. So if you want to borrow some of the players I wanted or some of the players John wanted, make the same trades, we would love to hear from you. There's already been a plethora of comments that we're going to share on tomorrow's show. We'd love to hear from you. What would you do if you're sitting in that GM seat? And if you want to get real detailed, give us the money, man.
Yeah.
We would love to see all of that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I love when you guys send us your picks as well. So we're looking forward to that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, for all the sickos who love this team and the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Thursday.
History says you're going to be spot on, and I'm going to be completely off.
I think I'll get at least one or two.
Yeah, let's go.